going to talk about three signs. I saw them that way here. I'm going to talk about. You're going to hear one that says taxation without representation. It either speaks to the ignorance of the marketers who came up with the slogan, or it speaks to their lack of respect for how knowledgeable we are. I'm not sure which it is, but neither one of them are favorable. When we decided that taxation without representation was a bad thing, our founders did what? Did we have all our congressmen elected at large? No. We have district representation where every district geography of the state has a district member who gets to vote. Do you vote for all members of the House of Representatives? No. Would that be a meaningful vote even if you did? No. It's impossible when you have 330 million people to say you're going to have some influence over with your one vote. In a district system, when the Commonwealth Constitution was done for the system, do we elect our state delegates, our state senators at large within the state of the Commonwealth? No, we do not. We elect them by, as the delegate well knows, by district. Does anyone say we have taxation without representation in the Commonwealth of Virginia? I think not. And when all the counties, of which Princess Anne County was one at the time, and to this day still have, yes, district voting. Is anyone claiming Fairfax County, which is about twice the geography of us and about 2.5 times the population, has taxation without representation? No. It's just a slogan. Then I saw another sign that said, just vote no. I don't know anything that's more insulting than just saying vote no, because it's not based on anything. But that's out there. And then there was another one that reclaim your voting rights. Has anyone been denied their right to vote? So I think when you have to ask yourself about this question, the two systems, what has to come to your mind is, how many people in this room think that money plays too big a role in politics? Correct. How many people in this room think that after the election's over that most politicians care a thing about what you say? How many people think that the legacy 731 system that we had served and reflected the will of the people in Virginia Beach once they got elected? Many people think that? Probably not. You can raise your hand if you think they did. That'd be great. If you think that's true. But no, because what it's about, when you can hold people accountable for their actions, that's when you have effective representation. When you have a relationship, which is why our founders made sure, both in the Commonwealth of Virginia and in the United States, the founders of our country, that our elected representatives not only were elected by districts, but they kept them on a short tether, 2 years in the House of Delegates and 2 years in the House of Representatives. They didn't do, I don't know if they thought people would become career politicians, but they didn't do term limits, and that's probably a bridge too far. But what I want to ask you is to think about your common sense. Just think. If a special interest is raising hundreds of thousands of dollars to convince you to bring back a voting system we moved on from the one you have, what's the likelihood that that's in your best interest? No, it's just, there's an inverse relationship between money being spent to convince you and what's in your best interest. I think we all know that to be true. So I think when you're talking to people, this is the common sense question you're being asked. You don't have to know all the litigation issues. I'm happy to answer questions on that. But this is just about what you as, I don't care if you're Italian, you're Polish, you came from England in 1707, you're American. We all want what? Our voice to be effectively heard. And voting for 2 versus 5, we lived there and they say, well, the large people will resent the interest of the city as a whole. I was an at-large member, and I know how hard they worked to get rid of me. Sometimes they were successful. But I do know that for the most part at one time, all the at-large reps were from north of the boulevard. Yep. Why? That's where the money is, the discretionary money, let's be honest. And that's where the people have occupations that allow them not to have to go to work every day. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. They should be proud. But you're not getting the diversity. So what you get is, modified 731 means that the continued flow, I call it taxation with exploitation, quite a better word, but taking your money, they're like, city council like a heat pump for these oligarchic interests. They suck the money out of your wallet, transfer it to the oceanfront and to town center for $24 million garages, $180 million of public, but we can't get tax breaks, we can't get our roads paved. So this is about quality of life. And they wouldn't be fighting so hard if 10-1 wasn't a threat for them continuing business as usual. And that is a method that should appeal to everyone, despite your socioeconomic status, the neighborhood you live in, what religion you are, or color your skin is. We all want the same thing, but the capital, the resources of the city to be equally invested across our community, and for them to be just as accountable on election day after election day. And modified 731 doesn't get us there, it's going back to the past.
Thank you, sir.
You mentioned accountability, and that leads us to our next person on our panel, Mr. Fred Jordan, who is a U.S. retired Navy officer, Chief Petty Officer to be specific, married with 2 grown children who are products of the Virginia Beach system, entrepreneur, owned the nesting box, opened the nesting box, and the garden box. And Mr. Fred, would you share with us about accountability? And thank you for your service.
I hope none of y'all are dogs. Let me tell you something.
A little bit louder.
Can't hear you.
Okay. I hope y'all own dogs. If you own dogs, I'm going to tell you a story. You may not like it. I learned accountability the hard way, and it stuck with me for the rest of my life. All right? I'm from a little place in Tennessee called Sparta, Tennessee. Have you ever been there? Yes. So I'm from a little place in Tennessee called Sparta, Tennessee, and we lived off of the land. You know, my parents farmed. They hunt. I mean, I ate everything from rattlesnakes to frogs. All right. So I go hunting with my father. I think I was about 10, 11. We had 21 dogs in the house. Every dog had a job. There was not a dog that lived in my house that did not have a job. So we take 4 rabid dog hoods. And we're out there, we're hunting. And my dad jumps a rabbit, which means he runs up on the rabbit, and the rabbit gets away before he shoots. So he calls the dogs. The dogs come over. 3 dogs go that way. Ruth, which is dog number 17, by the way. Ruth goes that way. Everything's fine. The rabbit doesn't come back. The dog does, and chases the rabbit in a circle, comes back and shoots again. Okay. He jumps another rabbit. Dogs come over. 3 dogs go that way. Ruth goes the wrong way. And I mean, this chick, don't go like dogs. So, and then I have to tell you, it was snowing, and it was cold. And he jumps on the rabbit, and I hear we go running through the woods. I get over there, and Dad says, get that dog, I get that rabbit. I mean, he locks eyes. Shot that damn dog. He says, I'm not going to feed a damn thing you're going to do what I tell it to do. That is accountability. That's where I learned accountability. I mean, that dude would come in the house at 5 o'clock in the morning and say, I need you to cut the grass by 6 o'clock. I was cutting grass. And we didn't have a we had more. So this 731 system that they want to put in, I don't see how you can hold the at-large people accountable. I'll tell you, I mean, at least the guy in the district, I can fire him. I can not give him my vote. I can get a bunch of other guys, but I can get rid of him. That at-large guy, it's so difficult to get rid of him. It's so difficult to get his ear the vendor's ear to tell them what it is you need. And I think the 10-1 system works. You know, one representative for one district. I mean, is there something about that that doesn't sound fair? Or it doesn't sound equal? Now, the districts are another thing, but one representative for a district is the way I go. And I'm with it.
Yes, sure.
10-1 without two other reforms will not be as effective as we think because of how the special interests manipulate any elections. One, you have to have a runoff between the top two candidates because they will place expert candidates in races to pull off the vote. Look at Barbara Henley's race. District 2, 33% of the vote. The next person was Lane Fedeke. She was like 29, but then a lot of other candidates. But I think we want a system where whoever's there is accountable. A majority of the people pick them. And unless you have runoff, you create an incentive for people to put in those candidates whose only purpose is to make sure their candidate gets the plurality of the vote. They were there with 41% of the vote. District 8 went up to 49%. We got a District 8 representative of 33. We got a District 2 representative of 33. I don't think when we have districts, that's what we had really in mind. It's the first step, but we do need additional things to make sure that a majority of the voters in a district are picking the person that represents.
Thank you. That brings us to accessibility. We have Mr. Riley Goldsmith, a Virginia Beach resident for over 3 years. He is a resident of District 6 and is the Political Action Committee Director for the VBEA. Would you share with us about accessibility?
So accessibility obviously is important in any context, but when it comes to our schools in our city, the 7-3 system does not allow for schools to get the fair representation all across the board. Under the 10-1 system, obviously if you increase your districts from 7 to 10, they get smaller. And when a district gets smaller, they become more representative of the people that live there. Schools are funded by the school board and by extension, city council. Our districts are important to our schools no matter which way you look at them. When it comes to schools specifically, however, when it is pertaining to the 10-1 system, is you will be able to establish a representative for those schools in the district that they represent. And the people in those districts who have their children that go to their schools, who teach at those schools, who maybe know community members of children in the school. I mean, I don't think there's anyone in this room that isn't connected to a school in this city in one way, shape, or another. Probably multiple. When you have a representative that represents schools in the 10-1 system, especially in those smaller districts, again, more representative of the people that go there, you can ensure that each school has a voice for funding, for school policy, for anything that happens in your school, curriculum, clubs, what is allowed, what isn't allowed, what sort of policies. I mean, we've seen time and time again of certain policies keep coming up at school board meetings, and you guys might have seen the huge discussion that we had on diversity, equity, and inclusion. 10-1 is important for stuff like that because it means that these schools will have a representative that knows what that school needs. Because a school on the ocean front might need different needs than a school in Red Mill or in Town Center or anywhere else in the beach. The needs are different. They're still schools, but the people, the community that goes there, they require different needs that need to be tailored to those schools. Under the 7-3 system, you could potentially have a district that is represented by 4 people from that same district. They could be 4 people in the same neighborhood. And I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think if you have 4 people sitting on city council or school board, you could trust them to represent a school that's halfway across the city in a district they've never set foot in. How would an at-large candidate even know what goes on in these communities around these individual schools? I don't think that you can unless they have a lot of free time, which I don't think anyone does anymore. But it also means that they get a fair shake at how the money is distributed among schools. Historically, in this city and in other cities all across America, we see time and time again that certain schools get preferential treatment. The overachieving schools and the underachieving schools, they're put into groups and they are funded accordingly, and people inform their decisions based on how they think about these schools. But under the 10-1 system, you will have an individual on city council and school board that hopefully, ideally, knows what these schools need, what the teachers need, what the students need, and they will make sure that they will fight for equitable distribution of their funds to make sure each school gets the programs that they need, each school gets the facilities that they need even, and make sure that if a community member, a student, a teacher, or any other stakeholder in the district has a concern, they have somebody that they can go to, and going back to accountability, someone to hold accountable to say, why did you do this? Why didn't you do this? Why is this happening? Why is this not happening? You can hold them accountable and you can make sure that your schools are being represented and they're being led by somebody from that community instead of being dominated by special interest groups that paid for their seats in the 7-3 system.
Thank you. What I've heard thus far is by having a 10-1 system, we have a champion who can champion for our children and our neighborhoods due to accountability, because we'll know who to go to talk about the issues and the needs of that. We are covered in the legal issue because it's no longer a question because the 10-1 system is a legal voting system, and that taxation without exploitation is no good at all.
This is important. When people look at 10-1, they should really think about why they're for 10-1, independent of what the litigation that's in place. Litigation, as anyone can see, is a temporary thought process of people you don't elect and for people which you can't get out from under the decisions they make. I only mention that because when you look at the existing precedent which supports the current interpretation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 as amended, it was significantly amended in 1982 by Congress to have a broader meaning. But the current Supreme Court on October 15th is hearing the Louisiana case. They have specifically pulled that forward to both look and revalidate its legal, which of course they want to use, probably technical, or whether or not the Voting Rights Act Section 2 is unconstitutional in its fullness. So if that were true, there would be no reliance on the courts to overcome the oligarchic interests, as I would call them, in Virginia Beach. So you really want to resolve and rely on yourself and not be dependent upon what the court says, because that's a whole legal determination that we don't participate in, but you get to decide what you think, what form of government. That's what this referendum is about. It's not a legal question. It's a question of what is the government you think, because it's yours, will best represent you and make your vote effective versus an illusion of being effective, which is what the other side is pitching. It's an illusion of effectiveness because we've lived here all our life, and we really think we've had that effective influence on the city council. No, but I think you have effective influence on Hutch, I'm pretty certain. So therefore, that's what this is about. I just want to make sure you understand that that's a court case that's right on the leading edge, and I wouldn't be betting on how that turns out.
So I was born and bred in the booming metropolis of Emporia, Virginia. So when I came to this little town from the booming metropolis of Emporia, I found it crazy that, we were not voting specifically for our district leader, because that's the way it's been since I began voting in '93. So I was a little taken aback the first time
There's a reason.
I voted here. And to think that my little small town, you know, has moved forward in our representation is amazing to me. But your statement is going to bring our first question to you. And if you have other questions you've written down and need something answered, please hold your card up and we'll get those and try to get to them. Who gets the advantage by having the 10-1 voting system?
I don't think, who gets the advantage? People that are interested in that every vote is equally powerful in the election system. And I think that's who the winner is. I think what the current system doesn't do, gives you the impression that because you have, now you have, what, in the old system, what they want to have modified, you get a vote for 5 people. That's still not a majority. So no one thinks that we're going to have a majority, we're just going to have a bigger minority. But what it does allow is what the same coalition of moneyed interests that dominated the legacy 731 system, they had to get the 4 at-large seats. That's back when the mayor wasn't always elected, and now the mayor was in 1990. And they only got to win 2 other district seats to have 6 votes. And we saw what 6 votes did under the leadership of Bill Sutton, Bill Harrison, and Bill Branch, and Thompson Trio. We saw what that is. So 10-1 is much more difficult for the power of your single vote to be diluted, because it's much more difficult to dominate 6 district elections than it is to dominate people who running that large, 254 square miles, 360,000 voters, takes a lot of money, you disenfranchise a lot of competition. And that's what they want. They don't want a competitive system. Your vote is just as competitive as everybody else, and that is the essence. I say we collectively as a people gain an advantage over money, and that should always be the case.
So I know I didn't share my notes with you prior to coming here, but my next note took us to dilution, power, and voting. So thank you for leading us into that. Ms. Allen, can you share a little bit about the importance of the power, the strength of our vote versus the diluted voting power?
Of course, the past voting system, as my buddy here mentioned, with an at-large system, of course, what was happening a lot of times is citizens would identify a person in their particular district that they would prefer to have as their representative. But because they had to run in the whole entire city, it was much easier for the, as you said, money interests to find someone, plant them in the district, and then get the rest of the city to vote. So they could have had the majority of the votes in their particular district. But because everybody else interfered in that voting, it caused them to lose the candidate of their choice, and ultimately there's someone else that gets elected because it is a citywide race. So that's where a lot of the dilution of the voting came into play, and that could be diluting of votes regardless of who keeps running. If your candidate of choice cannot get elected because the rest of the people in the city get to vote for your district representative, that's totally unfair. There's nothing fair about that system. Does that make sense?
Mr. Goldsmith, can you share how helpful it would be to have a school board representative from the district that they're representing and how that impacts? I know currently in District 4, I know who my representative is, Ms. Green, and as I've had some questions, because I do have a child with special needs, I've been able to go to her to get assistance. So how, from the BBEA, how helpful do you all think that would be to the citizenry of Virginia Beach?
Well, like everyone's been saying all evening, it's all about returning power to the voters to make sure that your individual vote goes towards somebody that represents your community. And I know I talked about it a little bit briefly just a minute ago, but again, I cannot reiterate this enough, and I cannot stress it enough. Each school, if you've ever been to multiple schools in the district, you will recognize that a lot of schools can look very different in their teaching staff and their students. It can, from one school to another, it can look very different. And each of these schools and their surrounding communities by extension, and high schools and their feeder schools and their elementary schools, they are a product of their community. And when you go to vote, you expect that to be your voice being heard by the government, by your elected officials, to make sure that you get what you want. And when you have a representative from your district that truly represents you, that lives there, that has kids there, that went to school there, or has kids that go to school there, they know what goes on in those schools. They know what goes on in their communities. They know what problems are in their communities. They know what advantages are in their community, what it has and what it doesn't. And when you have someone that represents you and your community specifically, you probably feel a lot more comfortable approaching them and asking them, because they're your neighbor, they're across the street, they're down the block. You know who they are, or if you don't know directly who they are, you can at least trust that because they live there, they drive from home to their place of employment or wherever they go, they drive through their community. They're there constantly. They grocery shop there. They go to restaurants there. They go to bars. They go to events in the community. They know you. And by extension, if they represent you in your district, especially under the 10-1, they will know what they can do to provide those needs, and they can advocate for them. Now, obviously, you would need a majority to be on the same side of you to actually get that action, but they will fight for you. They will advocate for you. They will make sure that you're heard and that you can approach them, and they will ensure, especially in my perspective, the schools are very important. They make sure that their schools get what they need, and it's not somebody voting for something on all the way up to the Norfolk city limits when they live all the way on the ocean front on the other side of town. They don't see that community every day because they don't live there. They don't drive through there. They only go through there when they need to, in passing. But if your representative comes from your district and they are representing you, they know your needs, they know your concerns, and they will fight to address them and ensure that everybody gets a fair shake and their voice is actually heard on city council and school board as well.
So when I think about accountability, I think about individual ownership, I think about responsibility. Can you share how you feel accountability will work better or does work better in the 10-1 system, please, Mr. Freeman?
One of my plays that accountability swings both ways. Doesn't just, with the 10-1 system, I have a representative that I can hold that individual accountable. And I have to be able to produce a result that will show them that I'm holding you accountable, thus shooting the dog. Right? I have to be able to show them that I'm holding them accountable, which means that I got to withhold my vote, or not necessarily withhold my vote, but explain to the council member how important my vote is to them. So that's part of the accountability is on me as well as on the council member himself. I would, there are things that while someone is running for office, that they say to us, they say these are things that we're going to do, these are things that I'm for, and then once they get in office, they are no longer interested in those items. And somehow or another, election after election, we tend to forget that they forgot us. And we need to hold them accountable. You cannot get my vote this time because you did not do what you had promised me you were going to do. Accountability just swings both ways. You just can't. I just can't expect the councilman to be accountable. I'm not going to be accountable for my vote.
So that takes me to another thing I heard recently. say that, you know, when he spoke up for some things prior to getting in the position, he didn't have the information that he's gotten since being in the back rooms concerning. But what do you say about candidates and people running for office who then swiftly change their mind in back room visits and stuff?
Well, one of the reasons why it's difficult to get, I think, good elected officials that we call politicians, usually already make a commitment, because I think most politicians know that your word is everything. And once that, you appreciated that, you should be done. So I've made commitments in the past that I wish I hadn't made,
Okay.
and I lived with them. I'll just tell you what it was. We had a robust debate in executive session, and I said, well, I don't really like that person to be the city manager. But if that's the vote of the majority, I'll vote for it to be unanimous. And that was the answer. Not so bad, but I made a commitment, but I worked as hard as possible afterwards to get 6 votes out of the way. I'll do it if you convince 6 people we need to go away. But, so I think people who make a commitment, say they learn late or something, suck it up. You gotta stick with what you have. And be careful about what you give your word to. What they're really saying is, look who gave them the money to run their campaign, and what you're gonna find out, not pick the case, because I don't know speak, that they voted with their campaign investors, not with their campaign brethren. And that is what we need to do a better job of making sure they don't go back. Can't terminate them early, unfortunately, because no default provision in our government. But you shouldn't reward people who don't keep their word. And it's like my kids. They're gonna play soccer, they're halfway through the season, they don't like it. I said, you can quit at the end of the season. Made a commitment. You got to stick with it. Just suck it up and move on. And I think that's what all our parents probably told us, no matter what it was. Can't hold that thing. Which I cried over.
I didn't realize how much running there was. So, maybe walk it back from that stage. A lot of running inside.
But what these are all about, people vote for you because of what they told you. Someone told you they were going to vote. I'm not for local collective bargaining. I think I should know that, not a secret. There was someone who campaigned.
right about everything.
I don't bring your wrong. But there's someone who said they were going to do that, and then they didn't.
All right.
That's a big deal. And I think all of you know, I don't like to call names, but you expect people to keep their word just like you expect you to keep your own word. It's about common decency.
So I do want to give everyone a chance to just for some final remarks. I'm going to give you 2 minutes with the timer. Ms. Allen, we'll start with you. Okay, yes. You ready, Riley? Okay.
So I guess for my final remarks, as not even as the VBA Political Action Committee Director, but even from a teaching perspective, because I am a teacher in this district, so this school district, the city means a lot to me. The students, the teachers, everybody, it's important to me because I believe that education is the way people get their foot in the door. For years, for decades, American politics have kept certain people out and prevented them from participating, and public education was one of the most powerful ways that we could give a voice to people. Because I think we all can agree, an ignorant voter is not a very helpful voter. And if you have an educated populace through public education that's provided to them that's good quality, you empower people. You give them the tools, the voice to speak up for what they want, to decide for themselves what they want, instead of being told or paid for or manipulated into thinking one way when their best interest might be another. And I think we've seen countless examples of that exact problem unfolding all across the nation. with the 10-1 system, we can ensure that all of our schools get the equitable funding. It's not just the schools that are performing well and they're taking money away from this school to give it to this school, or moving it from this school to this school, or funding this facility but not funding this facility. We can ensure that representatives from their district ensure that the schools in their district get what they need so that every student in Virginia Beach gets that voice, that power to give themselves the voice, to go out, make their own decisions, and advocate for themselves, to have agency. And I believe that the 10-1 system is the way that we ensure it continues to be that way.
Thank you. Mr. Fred.
Okay. I don't believe in the 731 system because it's not equal. It's hard to find someone to hold them accountable, to make sure that what they ran on is what they do. To me, it's like a game. They can club anybody and get away with it. I think it's our job to remember to look at the things that they have said they were going to do to us, that these members say they're going to do, and they don't do it. And we have to hold them accountable. Figure out how to hold those things accountable. The best way I can tell you to hold them accountable is to get rid of the 731 system. Period. And hold your vote, hold your representative accountable for what you elected.
All right, so you're for 10-1. All right. Mr. Moss?
I support 10-1 because, not on the basis of any legal litigation, but just because it provides for effective competition in elections. Without effective competition, there is no accountability. So you are the folks that determine that. You're going to hear lots of stuff. And it's going to be, because they're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. They've done it before. So they didn't get their way on light rail. They didn't get their way on the regional sales tax. They had to come up with something else. In the end, you are the sovereign, but only if you vote smartly. There's no guarantee that 10-1 will deliver better judgment. That only means if you vote smarter, as this gentleman said, and if you have good candidates, I believe if you then move to the next step of having runoffs. But the first step is to preserve a system that our founders knew worked, that our state operates on, that our Congress operates. So how can they tell you this is so evil? I don't see them campaigning against congressional elections or changing the state constitution. No, they just want to protect their advantage over the average citizen and make you pay for it. It's just wrong.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, Ms. Gordon.
Okay, in conclusion, I just want to remind everybody, 10-1 is not a partisan issue. It is not a partisan issue because a lot of people are out there spewing a lot of misinformation, disinformation with regards to the 10-1 system. And they're also giving the impression that one group or another is supporting it based upon political biases. That is not the case. The 10-1 system was designed to have a fair and equal voting process for all of the citizens. Because I like to use this as an example. If you live in a Middleneck and your great-grandson inherited a house that he doesn't have to pay for, you started a small business, and he's working hard, finally gets to a point where he no longer has to work as hard, so he's not able to run for office. Well, if he's in a situation where he knows that we need certain things in that Little Neck area, but he doesn't happen to be a part of that money club. He's just an average working, hard-working male or female, I should say, government say male or female, but owns a small business, now has 10 employees. He no longer has to work every day, but he can now run for office. He should not have to feel that the only way he can get elected to office is because he has to sell his soul and cannot keep his integrity. So the 10-1 system is about allowing each and every resident in the city of Virginia Beach the ability to keep their integrity, because the district size are now only 48,000 people, of which only 30-some thousand are voting age population. So when I look at the 10-1 system, I look at it from a standpoint of integrity, that everybody finally has the opportunity to run. The district size are smaller. They no longer have to worry about someone else coming in. And even when they do come, you no longer have to beg all of these special interest groups to support you in order to do what you feel in your heart of hearts that you want to do for the best interests of the people of the district and the people of the city of Virginia Beach. So that is my final word.
Are you for 10-1? Everyone to say
Yes,
it.
we are for 10-1. I am definitely for 10-1. I fought for 10-1. I'm still in the fight for 10-1. And it's about what I just said, and that could be any district in this entire city. I use Little Neck, it's not a real diverse district, but there is some diversity, and it might not be because of race, creed, and color. It could be because, some people have more money than others. There's socioeconomic situation that works in that particular district. And they should have just as much right, should have as much right to run and get elected to office. I think so.
So, we want to thank all of our panelists. We want to thank all of you for coming out. Some points to remember. One, this is one of many town halls to come. So share with your neighbor, your friend, your colleague, and let them know if they want to find out more about 10-1, that we will be having them. If you did not connect via our Mobilize app, please do so on your way out. Mr. C and anyone who else out there will be able to assist you with that. Also, want to make a donation. This is a grassroots campaign, and so not only you can die in here, tell someone. There's so many people here in the city who are unaware of the situation, the things that have happened, and even how we got here. So our town halls are set up to educate you all, so that you too can go out and be a vote yes 10-1 ambassador. Will there be one? No, I'm just we have one statement. Okay, all right.
So getting to the accountability question, and I'm the lucky one in the room that had to run 2 elections in 10 months to do that. So it was quite the work effort. But what I will tell y'all, if you're thinking about it, and
raise your hand if you don't have this second paper.
Is I held 4 town halls in District 1 and went to at least 3, if not 4, civic league meetings. If you're at large, you are not going to do that. You are not going to be accountable. I eat breakfast every Saturday at the Classic Diner, and they should take tickets, numbers, or to talk to me. When they're lined up, you bring up what their issue is. Acredale, we've got speeding and cut through. Arrowhead, speeding and cut through. So what we've done, I've worked
Thanks,
with the
John.
captain
Thank you.
from the precinct here. I've got motorcycle officers in Arrowhead. Now, granted, a lot of the neighbors that are doing the speeding, you know what I mean? But we got the carts going in Acredale and all over Woodstock. We've gotten roads done, potholes. It's a whole system. It's exactly what we've been trying to say today, that if you care about it, the people that I know, now I'm born and raised in Kempsville, so this is a little bit different for me, and I wasn't in the fire department a long time, but still, the magnitude of knowing everybody, the flooding that's going on. I've been to the streets. My wife will tell you. I go to breakfast. I go out and go look at where the problem is. So I am 100% accountable. Now, I disagree a little bit on the way we have to vote. Sometimes you do get educated more than you were, and you have to look at that. But that's a risk you take, and if I do upset enough people where they could change their vote for me, right? I'm very pragmatic. I don't think that's going to be my issue. But the thing that I really, really want you to hear is that when you start doing town halls, you learn your people in your district and what is important. I think the councilman, the former councilman would say is how many town halls do you hold when you're at large?
I held one during budget season, one in every single district. I held, in fact, 8 of them.
But you,
Every
that's
single
like
year.
totally, that's not what they're gonna do.
That's not the norm, but it's not
Different,
That's not the norm.
but anyway, thank you.
Thank you. So before you all go, 2 other things. Are you doing one? Thank you. Eddie C is going to come with some closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay, guys, this is really good, and I think we can all leave tonight thinking that. The word is, vote yes on 10-1. Let's say it again. Vote yes on 10-1. Referendum. Let's add referendum. Vote yes on 10-1 referendum. There's a couple things I'm going to ask you to do tonight as a result of the meeting. The first one is to do this survey. So take this home with you. Everybody can have a copy of this. Should have done it at the beginning possibly. But everyone can take a copy of that survey, and please do it. Why is it important to do that survey? Because it tells us who you are and why you support. Okay? What is, what's important about 10-1 to you? How do you see yourself fitting in this campaign that we're going through November? When's early voting start?
September 19th.
29 more days.